Thanks for letting me be here. I love that first reading. When I suggested it to Deborah sometime back in April, she said, well, why would that take courage? My response is because if you do follow what you truly love, it's going to take you into some toils and dangers and snares a lot of times. It's not all hearts and flowers. So I like to begin with a prayer. And if you're comfortable closing your eyes, you can do that. If you're not, it's okay too. But I am here only to be truly helpful. I'm here to represent him who sends me. I don't have to worry about what to say or what to do, because he who sends me will direct me. I'm contented to be wherever he wishes, knowing he goes there with me, and I will be healed as I let him teach me to heal. I recognize it's Mother's Day, but I don't worry about the he and the she, because within every she is a he, and within every he is a she. So it's both and. But we have two things in common. I better watch the clock. What does it say there? Okay, give me a notice when it's about 5 minutes before I should shut up. How about that? We're here because we have two things in common. One, we all had a mama, whether we're a mama or not. We all came through the body of a woman. A mother's love is crucial for healthy growth and development. And we see the absence of that in so much of our society today. Not all of us had the mother that Deborah describes. I had a wonderful mother, and for that I'm extremely grateful. She was almost all those things. My father's another story, but it was through that relationship that made me what I am today too. So it's interesting about the nature of a mother, because the Native American people believe that the earth is our mother and that we actually migrated up from the deep womb of the earth. And in this country, the indigenous people believe that opening happened in the Grand Canyon. And the Grand Canyon was the birthplace of who we are as a humanity. And the river, the Grand Canyon River, is considered the umbilical cord that keeps us connected to the earth forever. So that's one thing we have in common. The other thing we have in common is we're all here in a three-dimensional body at this time on the earth, a carbon-based three-dimensional body. And we have three-dimensional awareness. We have the awareness of a child, an adult, and a transcendent self. And the Native American would add two more dimensions to that, and that would be that which is above and that which is below. So, when I said a mother's love is crucial, I don't know how many of you as children, or even today some of you, will try to rescue a baby bird, and they don't last long. They don't last long on adult food or anything you try to feed them, or any little nest that you try to make for them, even if it's in a kitchen window or something so they can see out, because it's not their mother. We do bond necessarily with the female body. And when we don't get enough of that, we develop detachment or attachment disorders and other things later in life, as we'll see. But I want to talk about the body, mind, spirit nature of us and why it takes courage to love. Love is not easy, as we'll see. You have a handout that we'll look at in a few minutes. I want you to feel free to take whatever I say that's useful and let go of whatever isn't and just compost it, because your soul knows what it needs. And some of the things I say today might be a little far out, but you'll catch what you need. And so just trust that, and let's have fun. We all have an inner child, right? Does anybody have an inner child besides me? Does it have a name? And you all have an adult self. When anybody says, well, who are you? You tell them what you do and what you like and what you want and what you've been doing and what you hope to be doing and that kind of thing. So we're sort of human doings. And then you have a transcendent self. And I bet some of you even have a medicine name. Anybody have a medicine name? All right, I do too. I have an inner child that just is so delighted to be here today. Her name is Do It My Way, but it has a capital M. When she got that name, that M was quickly capitalized. And she learned that we get to do talk back. She calls it back talk, because she was told as a little kid a lot, no back talk from you. I had a lot of back talk, and I was not an easy child to raise for this saintly mother that I had, but she was delighted to know that we get to have back talk afterward, so we can discuss things. I want to share today what Sam Keen calls the 5 stages of learning to love, and you will see why it takes courage to love. Mark Twain said, courage is not the absence of fear, but the resistance to fear and the mastery of fear. We have a lot of fear in our culture today. A Course in Miracles calls fear false evidence appearing real, and so does Japanese medicine, and probably some other places too, but there's a lot to be afraid of in this crazy world because we haven't learned how to love each other. Sam Keen is a philosopher that was very popular. Anybody know Sam's work? Oh, good. He's a wonderful philosopher and psychologist. He was editor of Psychology Today many years ago, but he wrote a book called The Passionate Life, The Stages of Loving. And in it, Sam says that we are born with 100% capacity for loving relatedness to all living things. And by the time we're a thoroughly socialized adult, we have lost all but about 6.25% of that. And he likes to show that in little circles and how we lose it because we get stuck between, well, first it's the masculine versus the feminine. If you're a little boy child, you're supposed to do this. If you're a little girl child. And then there's the women and the men and the caregivers and the warriors and us and them and all the tribal stuff. And by the time we get thoroughly socialized into that, we don't have much capacity for loving relatedness, particularly for that which is different or that which we're told is scary or that which we're told we shouldn't be, do, have, want. So we spend the rest of our lives trying to compensate for that in one way or another. I'd like to share with you these 5 stages of loving and some of the characteristics that are dimensions of health each one of them can cause perversions as well if you get stuck in them. So they're called the child self, which is completely dependent. And its primary modes of loving are to bond with the mother, to be encompassed by the family around them. And they have a sense of playfulness and trust if they're healthy and are not abused. They're playful, they're trustworthy, they're curious, they're adventurous, but they want approval too. They'll do, they love it when you smile or you say, goo, 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 make them laugh, They love it, and they'll do anything to get that connection with you. So they learn what you are by being around you and needing that connection. The child learns basic trust and dependency, a sense of wonder, obedience, and enjoyment of intimacy and curiosity. Then there's the rebel temperament of the adolescent that's absolutely necessary. So the child is dependent, the rebel is counter-dependent and becomes self-conscious and starts to push away necessarily from what they're being taught and pushing away from mom and dad, forming their own groups and their own values. They rebel against authorities. They also fall in love with romance. And that's where you see our culture. Practically all the movies now are about romance. We're kind of stuck in what I call a second chakra. Are any of you familiar with the 7 chakras? No, okay, we won't go there. But it's normal for the adolescent to begin to doubt and to criticize and even feel outrage. So they're hard to deal with if you got one in your house. And I had all those traits. Then there's the adult personality, which Keene calls codependent in the not necessarily pathologic sense, but in the sense that you're informed by the society and the culture in which you live. You value belonging and conforming and cooperating and playing a role and doing one's duty and taking vows. You learn to compromise, to procreate a home and family and care for the young. A healthy adult has responsibility, loyalty to institutions, the discipline to postpone gratification, save for the future, save to put your child in college or help them. You learn to act with moderation, predictability. You obey the law. You respect your own conscience and outer authority. That doesn't sound all bad, does it? No. But the next stage, and I bet you every one of you in here is part of that. I call it the 4th dimension. It's called the outlaw self. Now, we don't think of ourselves as outlaws in the traditional sense, but we start questioning some of the laws that we've been taught. We start discovering aspects of ourselves that no longer fit quite. And we start saying, well, who am I now? What if I don't belong to this? What if I do need to leave this church or this person? What if there's an aspect of me that's coming out that I never knew before? What do I do now? Sam says it's good periodically at different points in your life to ask yourself, who am I now? Where am I going? And who will go with me? And keep them in that order. Because sometimes you won't step out into anything new unless you're sure everybody else is going to go along with you. Because we hate to be without anybody going along with us, especially for one of those approval-seeking people. I have in me a character I call the one-eyed, one-armed, flying purple people pleaser. And she's nearly dead, but, but not completely. Anyway, the characteristics of this level of the outlaw stage, and if you're not already an outlaw, probably you will be at some point in this crazy culture, the dance that it's doing right now, the world. There is a quest for autonomy, of being truly who you are. You might come out in some new way. And it upsets other people's apple carts. And it may upset your own. One of the other readings that I gave to Deborah that she didn't choose to use came from a poster that came out in the 80s when I was undergoing a second divorce that I felt so ashamed about. Why wasn't I able to do this thing? And it said, the truth will make you free, but first it will make you miserable. And then that was on the cover of a book when I was teaching assertiveness training to nurse practitioner students, because we were all in a new realm. We'd all been taught to follow orders, follow protocol, you know, and we'd never been taught to think on our own, much less insist on some things that we needed for ourselves. And so this book was called Selective Techniques in Assertiveness Training for Women in the Health Professions. And we were all going in the woods together, because I was like that too. So you always teach what you most need to learn. And this had the same cover on it, and it as the poster, and it was a rag doll hanging through an old-fashioned ringer. It said, the truth will make you free, but first it will make you miserable. Deborah says, no, we're not going to use that. It's not positive. Deborah's positive. Anyway, we begin to practice self-love and the love of all the parts of ourselves, as well as that in other people. We have a lot more respect and understanding of the multiplex layers that we are in each other, and we're more content to explore and to discover the truths as they emerge about ourselves. We develop what Sam Keen calls a trans-moral consciousness. It's not so stuck in the old morality. We go beyond good and evil with a sense of adventure and experimentation. That's the outlaw. That's the fourth dimension. That's where your transcendent self can help you out. Your soul and spirit knows the truth of you as it's emerging. And finally, there's the lover's spirit, which I, as a Christian, would call the Christ consciousness. Buddhists might call it the Buddha nature. A Hindu might call it the Atman, I think. Lord Krishna. This is an interdependent, not independent, not codependent, not counterdependent. It's an interdependent, self-transcending consciousness. You can get beyond yourself. And it's capable of mystical experience, and often has mystical experience. So it opens up that third eye full force, and you can see through the transcendence vision where all things are possible. And the characteristics of this are the realization that the center is everywhere. There is an embodiment of love in the carnal body. There's love of the family, friendship, the body politic, the technological body, the ecological body, and the mystical body. There's a sense of radical trust, forgiveness, second innocence, a joyful acceptance of the actual, the ability to suffer voluntarily when you need to undergo something difficult, and a willingness to become a wise fool when necessarily, to be vulnerable, to risk openness and disarmament. It's the unification of consciousness, compassion, and conscience. It's pretty powerful stuff. I think you have a handout here called the 8 Attributes of Love. So we can kind of see what we're doing and how we're doing in our own natural self. And you can see why this requires courage. Everyone get one? No. Anybody want one? Yes. They're around here somewhere. You didn't get them?
I didn't get them to hand out, no.
Okay. I sent them.
Hold on, can I see it real quick?
Sure.
Okay, 2 minutes.
All right. Well, while we're doing that, let me talk about love a little bit.
The nature of peace.
8 Attributes of Love.
Oh, you're going to put them here? I'm going to put them on the screen. Oh, okay. Just one second.
Put them on the screen.
Working as quick as possible, y'all.
Let's talk about love a little bit. Of course, you can't define love. Love cannot be captured in a definition. You'll take away some of its fineness. And these 8 attributes will help you see what love is experienced and expressed like. These are ways of determining whether this is love or not. And we'll see. You can give me mine back when you get a chance, but there's no hurry. One day in a meditation, I was at a Presbyterian church at that time, and we all were talking about the nature of love and forgiveness and how important forgiveness is. And I thought, what is forgiveness? Because sometimes it's really hard to forgive, especially if you've been deeply wounded, or when you see something that's happening like Ukraine and Russia, it's really hard to forgive. And so I thought, what is that? How do you do that? And what came to me, probably from that transcendent part of my mind, that is a universalist, Unitarian, capable of accessing that larger dimension. Okay. Said, forgiveness is releasing yourself from the effects of whatever has happened. Freeing yourself from the effects of whatever has happened that wounded you. And it can be a process. It can take a while. There are layers sometimes of forgiveness. But it will free you from being bound to the effects of whatever that was. And so you can become more whole. And love, I said, okay, what's love? Love. The Course in Miracles says there are only 2 major emotions. One's love, and the other is fear. And perfect love will cast out fear. And I always want to do back talk with that. A lot of fear will cast out love too. So it takes a great deal of courage to love and to move from one of those stages I just talked about to another. Because you're stepping into new space, always going into the wilderness. That takes courage. Both courage and love are part of what in yoga we call the heart chakra. It's the fourth of 7 centers of intelligence and physiology in the body that are also centers of enlightenment and awareness. The heart chakra is the big conversion center, and it's connected to the heart-lung function physically, but it has to do with being inspired and letting go. Being freshly filled with new life every moment from whatever is your higher power, and letting go back what needs to be composted and recycled. And the heart pumps blood throughout the entire body, but it's the seat of love. So this center and seat of emotional love experience, very important. So what is love? That same morning, that what came to me was, love is the, and I want to get this right, is the dynamic, where did I put this? Well, I can't find it right now, so I'm not going to struggle with it. Love is the dynamic energy that holds everything together in relationship that's ever changing in order for evolution to continue. It's the invisible dynamic energy that holds everything together in right relationship. But it's ever changing, it's dynamic, and allows for evolution. I like what Deepak Chopra says. This moment is just as it should be. Change is infused with non-change. Uncertainty is the womb of creation. And entropy holds no threat because it's under the control of the infinite organizing power. So whatever you might think of as God is that infinite organizing power, or vice versa. So it's easy, no matter how badly wounded, and some of us have been badly wounded by early training in what has passed for religious teaching, and I've been among them. But I kept coming back. There was something that kept drawing me back, and to some level all the time. And then I realized that church is just made up of people. And people are made up of what my inner child calls the adulterated self. She chastised me when I first re-encountered her and wouldn't speak to me at first because she said I ran off and left her and joined the world of adultery, where nobody ever had any fun anymore, and it was all responsibility. So she's a fundamentalist. She doesn't want to do anything that is not also fun, and she likes to mix with the fun with the mental. And so she says, yep, I'm a fundamentalist, and if it's not going to be fun, I ain't going to do it. And so she had a lot of people growing up telling her, and no back talk from you. So we get to do back talk here. I want to finish by saying that Mark Twain had another piece of, I think, real wisdom when he said there are 2 days that are crucial in your life. One is the day you were born, and the other is the day you find out why. So as you move through these stages, and I've talked to Jan a little bit because Jan and I've had some workshops at both Jan and Deborah's house, and Jan and I talked about, wouldn't it be fun if this summer people wanted to get together to do a little workshop, because there are perversions at each of these stages that you can get into, that we see in ourselves and around in society today. And it does take courage to move from one to the other. Wouldn't it be fun to have a whole afternoon to do some sacred journaling and maybe some yoga for anybody, because I teach yoga for anybody, and be able to explore those and where we are, and who are you now, where are you going, and who will go with you, and what are some of the challenges you face in developing the courage to love all aspects of yourself. So if you're interested, contact Jan Barrett, who is here. Do these people know you? Well, you know Deborah, so you can find from Deborah, and it's Redbud Yoga. You'll reach Jan at Redbud Yoga, because she would have a great place to do that, and especially if there's a lot of summer heat and we don't want to be outdoors. We could do something together there. So now you have a handout on the screen, right? You got it? How are we doing time-wise?
You're fine, just go for it.
Okay. I like this kind of people.
All right, it's up.
Okay. Okay, the first one is, we can see what kind of lovers we are right now, is acceptance. The second one is appreciation, and I put gratitude in there, because when you love something, you do have a sense of appreciation, and you can accept them or it, where it is, whether it's your spouse, your lover, your neighbor, your mama. Trust. Trust is not the same as faith. Trust in that other person and in yourself with that other person to be who you each are, very important. Patience. That's one of my 12 disciples that's half starved to death all the time because he never gets exercised or fed very much. So patience is not one of my strong suits sometimes. The fifth is honesty, and I put humility and humor, because if you'll get gut level honest, we're all pretty funny, and we all need some humility. Humility is another one of my 12 disciples or disciplines. Forgiveness. That's where you let yourself get freed up from the wound that somebody just inflicted on you, or that you just inflicted on somebody else that you wish you hadn't. Because it happens, we're human. We screw up all the time. And along with that forgiveness comes fun. You need to have fun. You need to have fun, fundamentally. In yoga classes, we usually laugh for a full minute. And it's amazing how long that minute lasts. But it's so good, not only for your lungs and diaphragm, but for your immune system to laugh. Faith, the assurance of what you hope for, the conviction of things not yet seen. What are we hoping for? What are we hoping for? What can we feel in our heart that we want, that's possible? Hope has been called the anchor of the soul. When we lose hope and get into despair, which is not easy, not hard to do, we wilt. If we can hold on to hope, very, very important. And faith is the assurance of what you hope for. So you need to have dreams. I saw one wisdom saying recently that says, dreams are the story your soul is writing about you. And you need to have a willingness to change and be changed. As one pastor who wrote a little book about courage, and I loved what he had to say in it. I probably wouldn't like to hear him preach because he's kind of a fundamentalist down in Texas, but he did a good little book on courage, and he said, you got to be willing to bend without breaking. And some of us are pretty rigid. We don't move enough, and we don't let ourselves be moved. So how are you doing as a lover? Who are you now? Where are you going? Who will go with you? What do you want? What do you trust? Follow that heart. Let yourself be mysteriously drawn by the strange pull of what you truly love. It will not lead you wrong, but it will lead you into wilderness. And that's where the new things happen. My yoga teacher, I'll close with this, used to say, an egg is neither good nor evil unless it remains an egg too long. So, don't remain an egg too long wherever you are. Let something new come forth in you.